Bart Ehrman begins this book by talking a little bit about his own biography, because for him, his biography has a bearing on how he studies and how he teaches the Bible. So my question is for you, what's his biography? How does he start out explaining his own personal experience in studying the Bible at an academic level? What's that? You're like, yeah?
No, he just talks about how he had a born-again experience in high school and then became a serious Christian as well. In order to become a serious Christian, he had to have this training in the Bible, so he was really passionate about learning about it.
Yeah, he was a particular brand of Protestant Christian, evangelical Christianity. There are not a lot of evangelicals here in New York State, but for instance, where I grew up, mostly in Indiana, everybody pretty much was evangelical. There weren't hardly any Catholics there. There weren't hardly any Jews. Almost everybody was evangelical there. He was one of these evangelical types for whom the Bible is extremely important. And because it was important to him, he wanted to get a thorough grounding in the study of the Bible. What else?
He talks about when he went to Princeton to study I guess about the Greek and learning Greek translations and things. I guess he learned a lot about how we learned about the historical critical method, which is something that he was not used to. He talks about how he was going to go into it thinking, I'm going to keep my views, I'm not going to, I'm going to not let it deter my faith, I'm going to, I'm not going to think different things. And he said over the course of time, everything stared him in the face, so it was kind of hard not to believe it.
Yeah, one of the reasons why he went to Princeton was to study with Bruce Metzger, who was, when he went to college, that guy, or when he went to grad school, that guy was the most important scholar in the study of the Greek text of the Bible. Remember at the beginning of the semester when we talked about how all the different copies of the Greek text are different from one another? Bruce Metzger is the guy who did that kind of research. Now, so he decides he's going to go there, and he decides he's going to do so while resisting the sort of challenges that might be made to him and to his conservative faith. This is not unusual for evangelicals. When I went, let's see if I can remember. I can't remember any specific instance off the top of my head, but I've heard things like this said to others. Evangelicals will tell their kids, when you go to school, you're going to be surrounded by liberals who are going to challenge your faith. They're going to try to tear it down. They're going to try to destroy it. You must resist their liberal attempts to, infect your soul, so you can stay firm in your faith. And this was Ehrman's view, right? I'm going to resist the liberal nonsense that they're going to shove down my throat. And he gets there, and he is exposed to views that are different from his own, but how did that affect him?
I guess he said it was hard for him at first, and he didn't change his mind willingly. But like I said, over time, I guess he said lots of praying, like I said, resisted it. He realized that there were a lot of errors in what he previously thought.
Yeah, look at one of the passages that connects right with what you're saying. Look on page XI or page 11, Roman numeral 11. How many of you have the PDF that we read off of Blackboard for today? Just a couple of you? Okay, that's bad. Remember, rule number 1 on the syllabus. What do you do if there's a PDF reading on Blackboard? Print it out and bring it to class with you. Alright, so for those of you who do have it, on page XI, if you look at the paragraph in the middle of the page, he says, some things don't go as planned. What I actually did learn at Princeton led me to change my mind about the Bible. I did not change my mind willingly. I went down kicking and screaming. I prayed lots about it. I wrestled strenuously with it. I resisted it with all my might. But at the same time, I thought that if I was truly committed to God, I also had to be fully committed to the truth. And it became clear to me over a long period of time that my former views of the Bible were flat out wrong. So it's not like he just went and was exposed to different ideas and flip-flopped overnight to a new view. He studied it for years and eventually came to the conclusion, I think I was wrong previously, or I was misinformed about my prior views of the Bible. Now, my experience, in fact, was very similar to Bart Ehrman's. I went to college to study to be a minister. I went to a college that had a Christian ministry program where Christian ministry was my major. I took classes in like how to preach, how to teach Sunday school, how to interpret the Bible, etc. And along with that, I was a Christian ministry major and a Bible major. And as I was a Bible major, I was exposed to the historical critical method study of the Bible. And much like Ehrman, I resisted the idea that the Bible was not perfect, like that was an alien and a terrible, evil idea to me at the time. But I took my studies seriously enough to consider the evidence, and eventually I was persuaded by the evidence that the view of the Bible that I had previously had as an evangelical was not the right one. So my experience was very similar to Ehrman's, and I also went down kicking and screaming, so to speak. It was a deep personal struggle for me for like 3 or 4 years in my life, dealing with the fact that my prior views on the Bible were different than what I was learning at school. Now, okay, how many of you guys say that you brought the reading today? 4 of you. How many of you read the reading? 3 of you. A couple more. All right. Because I have questions that I'm asking about the reading, and if you can't answer them, that's going to be a problem. Hopefully there's enough of you who read it to be able to answer these. Ehrman talks about the difference between what people who go to seminary, and seminary is just graduate school for people who want to be ministers. People who go into seminary come up with what they don't expect, right? What do they expect and what do they get? How are those things different from one another according to the way he tells the story?
Doesn't he say like they expect to learn about the Bible like the devotional approach, like what it means to them socially, according to their lives, but then in reality they're really learning it from historical critical method?
Yep. Right? Prior to going to graduate school, probably the only study of the Bible that they've been exposed to is the devotional study of the Bible. Where, I mean, it seems like the key question for the devotional study of the Bible is looking at it and saying, what does this mean to me? How can I apply this in my own life? But is that what the historical critical method asks? No. Like, by contrast, what does the historical critical method ask? Yeah, it doesn't take for granted that the text is true, and assumes like, you know, is part of it true, is some of it not true? If we investigate it in its historical context, how can that shed light? Are there, well, part of the historical critical method is also doing the kind of redaction criticism, right? How was this pieced together from other texts? Were there sources that were sewn together? Are there literary seams that we can find where things were pieced together in a haphazard way? Most people go and they expect the study of the Bible to be devotional, but what they're exposed to is the historical critical method. How many of you, I'm curious, thought that this class would be more of a devotional approach to the study of the Bible? So just 3 of you, 4, yeah. That's what I expected the study of the Bible to be like when I went to college. I thought when I signed up for Intro to the Bible, we were going to learn what the Bible means to us today.